let me ask somebody who I don't know who may have the answer. Let me see. G, let me ask you, G. If I said stack the deck in your favor in this business, how would you articulate that? What would that mean?
That means putting your money back into your leads because you want to have more flow coming in.
Okay. So when I stack it into leads, do my chances go up or down?
Chances of what? Making money?
Making money.
Oh, that they skyrocket.
They go up. All right.
Yeah, me and Bryce just
So
actually had this
here,
conversation this morning. So
you and who else?
Bryce,
Oh,
I was
hell
talking
yeah.
about that because I was kind of like, I want to hold off on leads, but I'm like, you know what? I really want some fresh leads
Oh,
because
dude.
I'm sold
All
now.
right.
They
So
work.
Yeah, but
hell yeah. So
also,
let's get into
Jenny, like
the
what?
product and things of carriers. But I remember Andrew Taylor. He had a training probably long time ago, probably like it's probably before you, Bryce, maybe. You may have heard him say this, but I remember the first time he said this was probably I remember I was living in Fairfield in Northern California. So this was like second year of Family First Life. Okay. He goes, a lot of people think, he goes, hey, is it more risky in your business to spend 200 bucks on leads or 2,000 bucks on leads? And this, he would just ask it to new agents. Okay. Right off the rip, everybody would say, dude, 2,000. Like that's way more risky. And then he broke it down and says, well, 200 bucks, you're going to get old leads, or if you get new leads, you're going to get like 10 of them. Okay. If you get old leads, you're going to get probably 50 to 60. But if you spend 2,000, now you can get about 100 new leads. Now, what do you think you have the best odds? What do you think's more risky? That's where a lot of you fall. Okay. So if that hits you here, hopefully it seeps down and hits you right in the heart. Wow. Because you don't move until it goes from your head to your heart. Ideas are cool. Movement comes from the heart. So you got to really let that sink in. You still may be nervous, but you got to know, like, dude, if I only put in, shoot, if I get 50, if I'm paying $10 hands at blackjack and I got five chips, buckle up, big boy. Could I hit blackjack? Yep. But wouldn't it be better if I had 50 chips? Would my odds go way up? So a lot of us are playing the odds not in our favor based on our feelings. Okay. But the crazy thing that's different than blackjack is that I'm in control. Gee, you're in control. Devin, you're in control. There's no way. And when I've seen people put their backs against the wall, like Jason, Jason, dude, yes, he got intentional, but dude, I bet you his lead spin became more consistent. They became more chunkier. Okay. And it wasn't based on the income that was coming in. Jason, am
No,
I all the way off? Like where
no.
you at with that?
You know what I do now? I buy leads every 2, 3 days. So what I do is
Boom.
I buy like 30 leads, and then 2, 3 days later, boom, another set. I'm buying like three
Regardless
times
of
per
what
lead.
happens, right?
No, I don't care. Doesn't matter. Yeah, I bought some this morning. I mean, and I'll buy some probably on the weekend. So and I don't even think about it now. I just like, okay, I'm just on a routine now.
Okay, so now, all right, this is great, dude. Let's rewind 3 months. Okay, you weren't cheap, you weren't not spending money on leads, but there was more thought into it. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
yeah, there was.
What were those thoughts?
It was at at the very beginning, it was a little bit scary, I got to admit. Okay. And once I started seeing the production, and it's about believing in yourself. So I had to take a step back and say, I know how to do this. I know what I'm doing, you know. And when you believe in yourself, then you're going to spend the money on yourself. Like when I talk to people and do interviews, it's like you need to invest in yourself, your business. And when I say that, it's like I'm saying the same thing to myself. You have to invest in yourself. Now, any other business out there that you're going to open up, I don't care if it's a pizza shop, sub shop, if they don't invest in that business, it's going to go under, no matter what. It doesn't matter what kind of. If Walmart didn't invest in their products, it wouldn't be Walmart. I mean, they probably spend a ton of money on everything. Every grocery store, every business there is out there has to have investment. And it's okay to have debt There's not one company, there's not one new company or even years of companies that are debt free. Maybe 20 years down the road, but even then, probably not. Like Sean said something, he said, you know what? I'll borrow money as long as it's less than like 5%. I'll borrow all day long. I don't care because I'll make it right back. Right. And if the money's in your bank account, you're borrowing from yourself and investing in yourself, you know you're going to make that money back. And if you see it, once you see it happen, once you see that you spend $500 on leads and you made 5 grand, I mean, it's a no brainer. Why would you not do it again?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Is Zach Johnson on here? All right, he's hot right now. I mean, he's rolling. It's all good. All right, because I wanted to get his feedback on that. Bryce, how was that conversation this morning with G? How did it come up, and what can you say to that before we get to carriers and products?
Well, kind of to your earlier point, you know, what what also gave her the confidence is, she's got a pretty nice commission coming in. You know what I mean? So she got the check the Aetna commission thing, goes, okay, cool, like I can buy some more leads. I got it coming. You know what I mean? And so when you even, that's to your point of like when you got money coming in, you're like, all right, what if I just put more in and I can start to grow that, right? Um, and what I'll say to, kind of to piggyback off what Jason was saying is one of the best things that I ever did for my business was, I think it was in my second month. Dom, you said, all right, because the availability of leads and lead types and sources and all that was very different 5 years ago than it is now. Like there's so many different ways to get leads and vendors and types of billing for leads and all that. But essentially when I was new, it was like you bought these old internet leads to start, and then you graduated to like a recurring mail order of mortgage protection. That was like everybody's goal is to get to recurring mortgage protection. So it's basically it was called a buy per lead. So you purchase however many counties, and there may be 3 leads that come in that week, or there may be 37 leads that come in that week, and they're all $50 a piece. You never know. So your bank account could get hit for $150, or it could get hit for $1,500. And you had to roll with it either way because that's what you signed up for, right? So in my second month, Dom was like, all right, Bryce, it's now time for you to get on a recurring lead order with a mortgage mailer. And he explained that to me. He's like, you could get it for 150 next week. You could get it for 1500. You just got to be ready. You know what I mean? But 1500 is a good thing because you get a ton of leads coming in. You know what I mean? So like now we're like, okay, I'm spending this much per week and it's always going to be that way. And I know it's always going to get this many leads, which is cool, but it wasn't always like that, right? So again, to go back to my point, like the best thing that ever happened in my business was Dom had me do that in my second month. So and they came in basically daily. So like every day my account was getting hit for leads that were coming in, and I was on this recurring lead order. And even if I wanted to cancel it, because basically you're paying for them to send the mail out, like it would have taken like 2 months or something if I after I canceled it before they would even like stop charging my account. You know what I mean? So like it's a commitment for sure. So that happened to me. He did that in my second month. And what that did is it removed any sort of thought process behind buying leads, any sort of worry, any sort of like, how many am I going to get? It was just like you wake up in the morning, your account gets hit, and you're like, all right, I better get to work today. You know what I mean? And then you work your butt off and you grow. And then after a little while, you're like, you're only excited when leads hit because you have so many leads coming in that you're selling enough insurance and making enough money that it always offsets, the lead charge. And every time you get an email that you leads come in, or you get something hit your account that you paid for leads, you're fired up about it. You're like, sweet, more leads, let's keep it rolling. So the point is like when you can remove the thought process behind buying leads, like that's why recurring lead orders are so important. You just focus on doing the work, and you're not playing this like ROI game every single day or every single week. Like, well, last week I only made this much, so now I can only spend this much. Like, if you can drag out playing that game. And I'm not saying like ROI is important. That's why we're in business. Profitability is the name of the game. Like, that's why we're here, right? But early on in your business, if you're so like tit for tat about like I have to make this much before I spend this much and so on and so forth, you're gonna drive yourself nuts and you're gonna play that game for so long as opposed to like Jason said, if you just believe in yourself and just go, boom, I'm buying leads no matter what. And then you
Mm,
also know that you're gonna put in the work to back that up. Belief and work, those two things will create profitability.
yeah.
So
And here's one last thing with that. Run your run your business very lean, okay? And keep your life very minimal, okay? And I'm never going to say, hey, don't do this or what you can or can't do, but just be smart with putting your commissions, especially your first year, into things that won't give you an opportunity to make more money. Okay. So CRM, that's going to help you make more money. Leads will help you make more money. Um, they're outside of those things like lock-ins, things like going to lock-ins, trainings. Those are things you're going to spend money on. Okay. I'd rather spend money on those things than just getting a new place because I can or getting a new car because I can. And be clear because and the things that you can do personally, you got to think, is that going to help me get ahead in my business or will I be back at this broke spot again, per se? Okay. So I'd just say, especially if you have a job, okay, like some of you guys are part-time and you have a job, your life is taken care of already with your job. Nobody's homeless here. Makes sense? You guys, you pay your bills already with your income. So all the insurance income should be 100% going back in so you can make more money. The biggest mistake I see with part-timers is that they use their money, okay, they use the insurance money for personal stuff that they would have already been using their regular money for, or they like, I'm gonna pay off this credit card. I'm like, dude, you weren't in a hurry to pay off that credit card before. Why now? Because paying off that credit card isn't going to help you make more money. Make the minimum. Does that make sense? Now, it depends on what your interest rate is. We can talk personally about that. Straight up. I'll be real with you. Okay. If your interest rate's ridiculous, pay that damn thing off. Okay. But if you've got a decent interest rate, is your money better spent paying off that credit card or buying more leads so you can generate more money? Make sense? Make the minimum payment, doesn't hurt your credit, and just make more money. The interest over there is not more than the commissions that you can make in insurance. I was in a hurry to pay off student loans when I started. Okay. And Sean was like, that was just me. I was young and that was my biggest debt that I had. And I was just excited to pay it off. And Sean was like, dude, are they going to take your degree away? And I said, no. He goes, then what are you worried about, bro? Buy yourself some leads and make some money. And then I paid off my credit, but then I paid off my student loans within 2 years of being in this business. But I was in a hurry to pay him off my first year. And he was like, slow down. You got to run your business. Hopefully that makes sense to all of you. We have different things in our lives that we have, but you got to go, what's priority? Making the money or paying money back? Which one is more important? You know what I mean? And a lot of people have that question about taxes too. Well, how much percentage should I put aside for taxes? Well, my answer is zero unless you're making money. You'd be like, I'm broke. Why do you have 5G sitting in a tax account and you ain't got no commissions coming in? Well, I just got to put, you're missing it. You're missing it. All right. There's no hurry to pay your taxes quarterly, your first year, second year in business. You make sense? Like make your money. So there's a lot of different things, but we can all relate with the tax thing. All right. I think you'll get into your cash flow will tell you when you can start putting money aside for taxes. If you need to buy leads, you ain't gonna have a tax problem because there's no money coming in. You with me? And a lot of people play that like they pin themselves against a fake wall. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, dude, it's really not even there. And that's what I was doing. I was putting myself under pressure over something that really didn't matter. Make sense? Now your mortgage matters. Makes sense? Student loan, nah, not so much. Makes sense? That credit card at freaking 9%, not so much. Make sense? You guys with me? Or am I speaking blasphemy right now? Okay. So any questions, comments about out of that, about any of that?
You know, I'll say something that I heard Sean
Yeah.
say. A lot of people, you know, when you make a certain amount of money, you live that lifestyle. Then you start making more money. Then you live a higher lifestyle. Then you do. Then you keep on going. I heard Sean say, well, I think people were asking the question, Sean, when did you start? Like, when did you buy a house? When did you buy a car? When did you get all this stuff? He waited, lived this, say, drove that same little Accord or whatever he said, and he just waited and spent the money in the business until it was enough to do whatever he wanted to
Right.
do. So I did the same thing. I raised my lifestyle over the years, you know, years ago. But now it's like I'm going to stay at the same lifestyle. If there's more money coming in, great. It's going to be put into the business and put aside if needed, if there's enough. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, investing in the business is like huge, you know, and it's hard. It's hard to see that right now when you're new, but what but hearing it from around everybody that's telling you guys, just kind of keep that in the back of your head. You know, just if it's the 25th of the month and you got rent coming up, you're almost better off putting that in leads, because if you got 7 days to pay rent, you could probably make a whole lot. You could probably make rent twice, three times, you know?
Dude, that piece that you just said right there is the piece that I wish, like, once you unlock that belief in yourself that you don't hold on to that mortgage or rent money, and you believe that it's kind of like, it's like taking the base salary with a commission job. It's almost saying that, like, I don't believe that I'm a closer. It's like I need a base salary because if I don't close, do you know what I mean? It's like take the 100%. Take it. 100% commission is the way to wealth. Base plus salary. I don't know those guys. They don't write books. You mean which one of those guys are you? Yeah, dude, I had this big base plus salary. I'm running sales trainings. No, it's 100% commission. That's where you get that. That's where the drive comes in. And I was talking, we were on a new agent training the other day. Not new agent training, onboarding with Bryson. Um, Something hit me about like this entrepreneur. Like everybody here decided that they're different. Everybody here. Everybody here is not the same, but everybody here has some alpha in them. Or else you wouldn't have never decided that you wanted to be in sales, 100% commission. Now you're like, well, that's really not me. Well, there's a piece of you that is, because you believed that you can do the hardest thing in any field, which is I eat what I kill. And that alpha in you, that dominance within your life, right? And that's what I mean. I don't mean alpha on other people, alpha on yourself. Okay? Are you the leader of you? And everybody here, when you said, hey, I want to look into this, I want to do this, that's what you were committing to. And there's a lot of people around you who are smart enough to pass the test. They work hard, dude, but they don't believe that about themselves. They just don't. Doesn't make them wrong or make you right. It just means that this may be right for you. Makes sense? And you got to remember that. Devin, you called me 3, 4. I'm excited. That like that person in you telling you that, you got to remember who that person is. You got to remember, like, oh, dude, that is me. That is inside of me. I do believe that I can lead myself all the time, though, not just when it sounds good. Because that's when we start losing ourselves. That's when that alpha comes out, when, man, you start doubting myself. So you just have that over the top belief that you're in control of you. All right. And everybody has it. Doesn't mean we're all the same. Doesn't mean you speak like this person or Romney or Clint or anything like that. But I remember when Marisa was on the call, she really talked about having that edge of, I'm not bothering people. I'm not bullying people. I'm in control. I'm the doctor, and they're sick. I need to help them. Okay. So if B, how do you want to go about the carrier's products today? Do you want to take questions from anybody, or do you have a um more specific carriers you want to talk about today?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of just wanted to start from like, we've been moving through this sales process, right? And then it's like, okay, let's say we got somebody through the building the why, and now it's like, all
Yeah.
right, cool. I did the underwriting, I figured out the need. Where do I start? You know what I mean? And we're obviously going to recommend starting with Americo, but then we also talk about insurance toolkits. And so I just kind of wanted to go through, all right, this is the situation I'd go with Americo, and then this situation where I'd go with basically every carrier after that, and then kind of go from there and talk about really like the main three that we're gonna products that you're gonna write and like the reasons you would go to them. So really just kind of want you guys to leave this with a little bit more confidence and belief of all right, when it comes down to picking the carrier to start with, what how I'm gonna explain it to the client and maybe why I'm gonna do that, right? Um, so with like again, I'll start it with Americo. Many reasons why we default to or lean towards starting with Americo before every other carrier. For one, I mean, you just saw Jason and I just posted our Americo bonuses. Like, if for not any other reason, ride Americo because they're going to pay you a 10% bonus after you hit a qualifying amount of volume. That was over the course of 6 months. So don't get too excited about me and Jason getting paid a bonus because that we had freaking 6 months to do that. You know what I mean? Like everybody should be hitting 50,000 in volume over the
Everybody.
course of 6 months. You know what I mean? So like it's not that great, but that's an awesome thing about America. We got an extra 5+ Gs just for doing our jobs. So love Americo for that. It's 50,000 in volume over the course of 6 months. So that if for not any other reason, start there. But a couple other things is like they have a very simple application for the clients. If you've been on the phones at all, you've learned that hey, some clients are more tech savvy than others, right? A lot of our clients, especially final expense, not super tech savvy. So Americo has a text signature that they get sent to the client, and all the client has to do is read you back the 6-digit code, right? So when you start an application, the first part of the application, they're going to check like a medical database, right? So if when you're at that point of the application, I'm going to go, all right, Braley, the first thing Americo is going to do is they're going to send you a text this is just for the HIPAA authorization. So we authorize them to check your prescription and medical database. This is how they'll determine whether or not they want to assign the coverage to you. So you're going to get a text from an 877 number. Read me back that code. That will be your authorization for them to check that database. So all the client has to do is look at the phone, get the text, read you back a code. Super simple, right? And then same thing at the end. Once you complete the application, all right, you're going to get one more text from the 877 number. When you're ready, read me back that 6-digit code. That will be to authorize the completion of this application. Um, so there's really going to be two products that you're going to write with Americo, right? It's going to be the Eagle Select is their whole life plan. So those are clients age 40 to 85. So again, if you've been on the phones for any bit of time, you've probably noticed 98% of your leads probably fall between the ages of 40 to 85. Does that make sense? Um, and then the other one is going to be the universal life plan. So I'll go over that in just a sec. But just a quick like couple highlights, if you will, for the Eagle Select. So whole life, obviously, these are for clients that are within that age range. They probably have something going on with their health. They're probably taking one, if not a couple different prescriptions. Um, now and then also again, like with the new with America's new Eagle Select, very competitive pricing as well, right? So just to be honest, like we've always leaned on Americo, but it wasn't always the most competitively priced plan. Now it is, especially with their tier one. So if you go on insurance toolkits and you don't put in anything health and you run a quote, you'll pretty much always see Americo Eagle Select One coming up as the most competitive rate. So for many reasons, you know, great place to start. And then just keep in note also, like you really want to keep your business consolidated with as very few carriers as possible. It helps with your profitability. It helps you managing your book of business. It helps you with, getting out of chargebacks, all this stuff. So even if you're seeing different rates all over the place, like you don't want to be spreading your business out between 17 different carriers. Like the more you can keep your business with one carrier, the more profitable you're going to be and the easier your life is going to be. So with that being said, Americo Eagle Select, and like the way that you explain it to a client the same way you would any other whole life. So the way if I'm going to get started with an Americo app for Eagle Select, what I'm going to say is, okay, Braley, this coverage is going to be permanent. Your price is never going to change. Your coverage is never going to change. And it's going to pay out right away when you die. So you never have to worry about this expiring. You never have to worry about your price going up. You never have to worry about your coverage going down. And there's no waiting period. So God forbid you die anytime soon, then the full coverage is still going to pay out. So that's that permanent, level, and immediate are like the bullet points of what I say. I don't say anything about cash value, right? Like if they ask me about it, yes, it does build a little bit of cash value. I don't say anything about living benefits. Is there like, can they access some of it if they get, a terminal illness? Like, yeah, there's some stuff, but like, we don't want, like, clients are getting the insurance for the insurance, right? So I just keep it very simple, permanent, level, and immediate. That's how you explain the plan before you get into like showing the numbers, right?
Now, Bryce, one thing I will say on that piece is I'm gonna leave out the immediate until I know if they qualify.
Sure.
Okay. Like my clients are never really asking me, does it start right away? And if they do, I say there are options that do, but we're gonna see what you qualify. You'll put yourself in a corner if you do that. Okay. I'm better off. I want to say the most general statements to where if I got to go AIG, what I told them is still true. Okay. Their premium stays the same, face amount never changes, and it lasts forever. That's what I don't immediate. I'm going to leave that out. Okay. Because it's not needed. Does that make sense? Especially on the phone. Okay. Now, if they're asking you, well, does it start right away? Well, yeah, it could. Do you know what I mean? It could happen, but we're going to see what you qualify for. But a lot of times they don't ask that.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so yeah, just be very, very careful about the position you're putting yourself in with the client. Okay.
Or if you get them pre-approved, then you can say that, right? So
Yes, absolutely.
if you get the green light back, then hammer on the immediate stuff.
Fuck yeah. Hell yeah. Right after you get that pre-approval, then it's like, all right, because now we're trying to figure out, now that's going to help me build premium when I say that. Earlier, it's just kind of I'm saying it. But when I say it after they're approved, all right, so here's the deal. You've been approved, all right, for the immediate coverage, all right, which is by far the best. Now we got to figure out what amount you're going to go with. I know you want to get buried, so we're going to need at least 12 to 15. Okay. So I'm going to start there. All right. And then you let me know, should I go higher or should we just stay right there to cover the burial? How sure I am when I'm saying that is going to get them to, okay, cool. Let's roll. Make sense? So, but very, 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 very tactical with the information you're giving them. All right. Because before I almost had to do that because I didn't have I didn't have an opportunity to pivot. So it was just like, all right, let me just sell them what I think the best would be. because I won't know for another 3 or 4 days anyways.
Right.
Makes sense? So, but now I'll know in 4 minutes, dude. Why would I say something and 4 minutes later have to retract it? You know what I'm saying?
And then
4 days later, different. Yeah.
also, the people who are, there'll be very few people who will ask, like, is it day one? It probably is because they maybe do have a lot of health issues and you might want to ask more questions then, or they might have had a policy before that had a 2 year waiting period for a reason. So
Yep.
definitely when you hear that, make sure you get, ask more questions. Just
Oh,
make sure you,
dude, yes. That's a great point. If they do ask that, there's something, there's a reason, because clients just don't know stuff like that. They only know stuff like that if they were in one, right? And they thought they shouldn't be. And then you figure out what that is, and then you maybe just confirm with them. I've had people who dropped a 2 year waiting period policy because they thought it was inferior, and then they got a 2 year policy with me. You know what I mean? But it's just like, all right, well, that's the, but now I had to reassure them that that is what the best that they can get. And the other agent didn't do that, which is why they're still shopping. So,
and there's some like Mutual of Omaha, they have an actual GI policy that they do over the phone for even if somebody has perfect health, they'll put them on a 2 year wait just because it takes them 5 minutes. I
yeah,
mean, it's just the easy, and then they didn't even know. And those are the ones that it's just about asking more questions. That's all.
100%.
Digging.
100%.
So yeah, couple other highlights of Americo. Like we just said, you can essentially get an underwriting decision before you complete an application, right? So you can have them check the medical database and they'll spit you back an answer before you get to asking about banking information. And it's super valuable because if you're not really sure, with their health, or if you just want to make sure that you can get a green light essentially before you go, all right, this is exactly where it's going to fall in terms of the rate, everything like that. So that's basically called I call it like a health database check or an initial underwriting check. Let's see if we can get you a pre-approval before we get too deep in the weeds on looking at numbers so we know where you fall. And then we can look at accurate numbers on what you'd actually get approved for. Does that make sense? So it's awesome. Americo has that. Mutual of Omaha has that. One of Transamerica has two different plans, but one of Transamerica's plans has that. Like Corebridge has that. So I always like to go with carriers that'll give me a pre-approval before we get to finish an application. Couple of things about Americo real quick is one of the biggest advantages they have outside of what we already mentioned is they have what's called a quit smoking advantage plan. So if anybody mentions to you that they're a smoker, the majority of the time, Americo is going to be like the absolute best plan for them, regardless of whether they get put in the tier one or tier two, because they have the opportunity to get a non-tobacco rate, whereas every other company will obviously give them a tobacco rate from day one. So how that works, like if you ever come across somebody that says that they're a smoker, um, what you want to ask is, okay, cool. Now, do you plan on quitting smoking at all within these next 3 years? Right? And if they say yes or maybe, go, okay, cool. Because here's why. There's one company out there that will give you a non-tobacco rate. As I'm sure you're aware, Dom, as a tobacco user, every insurance company is going to charge you higher rates. They always go, yeah. I go, okay, cool. So there's one company we're going to start with. And the reason is because they're going to give you a non-tobacco rate for the first 3 years. So how that works is between today and 3 years from today, you're going to get a non-tobacco rate. And then what's going to happen is they're going to send a mouth swab and a little, vial for a urine sample to you in the mail. And as long as those two things test negative for nicotine, then you get to keep your non-tobacco rate. Now, if for some reason you're still smoking or it tests positive, or you just fail to send it back, then what would happen is you'd get the choice of either your rate going up to what a tobacco rate would have been, and at the very least, you just got a 3 year discount, or you can opt to have your coverage lowered to keep your rate the same. But still, this is going to be, every other company is going to charge you a tobacco rate from day one. These guys will give you a non-tobacco rate. So all you got to do is have one negative nicotine swab and urine sample, and you're good, right? Um, so they're the only company that has something like that where they get a chance for non-tobacco users to get a non-tobacco rate. So I kind of mentioned it, but they have Americo Eagle Select has two tiers, right? Tier one and tier two. Um, when you run the quote on Americo's website, it will only give you the rates for tier one. So you'll just go down to the bottom and find the little thing that says open report if you ever want to look at the rate for tier two. But it's based on their health. So they'll get sent to tier two if Americo sees something in their health that doesn't feel like they're healthy enough to qualify for tier one. So that's another reason why it's always best to try to get that pre-approval to make sure they can get pre-approved for tier one before you start giving them rates for tier one. So if somebody is like 72 and they're like only take a high blood pressure med and like nothing else, that like yes, you can feel a lot more confident just telling them what the rate would be. But if there's anything at all that's kind of like, he's got some stuff going on, you want to try to get a pre-approval first before you start giving them rates.
Yes. And to that point, if they ask, okay? If they don't ask, there's no point. Okay? If your clients don't ask, don't say anything about it. All right? They will you're rolling. Here's another piece though with Americo that I think is huge with value. Okay? It has accidental insurance. Okay? A lot of you, maybe you just don't know, and you're writing these policies and not adding the accidental in there. Okay. I 100% add accidental, 100% of the time. Okay. Now, this is why. When I explain it to him, so if I go, hey, G, this policy comes with accidental, and it's not like most other carriers where the accidental falls off when you hit age 70. Okay. This accidental lasts for your whole life. All right. It has basic accidental, which means if you got in a car wreck, fell down the stairs, died, something like that, double the face amount. But it also has common carrier accident. Gee, are you still active? You still traveling around seeing your grandkids? Yeah, man, I got an RV trip this summer. Well, man, you know what I mean? If you're in a plane, train, anything you pay a ticket for and you pass away, it triples the face amount. And I always go, you know, like what happened to Kobe? Yeah, that right there would have paid 3 times the amount. You know, that accident that just happened from India going to the UK, 3 times the amount. Oh, wow. Yeah. So I know the odds of that happening is like very small, but dude, it comes with the policy. Why not have it? And there's no other carrier who's going to give you that and the double indemnity for the rest of your life. There's a reason accidental insurance you can't get at younger ages and you can't get at older ages. Do you know why? Because you're more accident prone. Do you guys get that, right? An 18-year-old can't get an accidental on the policy because you're young. Does that make sense? They're like, nah, that's too risky on accidents. Over 70, too risky for accidents. So Americo says, we'll take the risk. And when you explain it to people like that, now they're bought into like, oh, hell yeah. I want that. And the other ones won't have that. Now, the other ones, like Mutual of Omaha, I got carriers right now that will let you add accidental, but at 70 it falls off and you still pay the same premium. Ain't that some shit? And they go, damn it, that is some shit. I'm like, I know these insurance companies are a freaking racket, bro. All right. I work for you, which is why I'm telling you the real deal. Oh, okay. Okay. I'm like, yeah, so there's other ones that will have accidental. But if it's $75 and the accidental falls off at 70, you're still going to be paying $75 until you die. That's a ripoff. I know it is. Value, 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 value. And then I go 30,000, $90,000 common carrier, $60,000 accident, and $30,000 natural death is only $224 a month. You know what they heard? 90 G's. I'm just being real. This is sales. You have to really think people want big stuff. Even if it's a $5,000 policy, $15,000 common carrier, $10,000 accident, and $5,000 for the cremation. Oh, hell yeah. In their mind, I got a $15,000 policy with a slim chance I die in a crazy ass accident, but it's true. Do you guys understand? We sell, we sell life insurance, man. And I think sometimes we don't really put value on the things that are have small percentages. You know, there's people out there who sells that indemnity insurance. Like if you lose one arm, one eye, you get hurt, all this type of stuff. People buy the hell out of it. Why? Because, dude, it's like, well, it could happen. But a lot of us are just selling it on natural death. You guys watch Final Destination? Like things happen. I'm being tongue in cheek, but like you guys, like we gotta bring the real to people, not the I'm old, I died of cancer. Like, you know what I mean? That's probably not the big reason why they filled it out. They probably were on the highway and saw a car under an 18-wheeler and said, "Oh shit, dude, I need to make sure I get some insurance." Are you guys feeling me right now with this? It's way bigger than the Americo, okay? This is just value, value, value. All right, because when value exceeds price, people buy. But whenever you're pitching that Americo, start with the highest common carrier accident, give them the second accidental, and then give them the final natural death. And that's going to bring a lot of power to your close, to your premium, to your fate, all that. Make sense?
100%.
And you know what else? The majority of our clients are, 60, 70, 80, or, whatever. You know what they do? I know what my parents do. They watch the freaking news. And you know what's
Yeah.
on the news? Nothing but bad news. Shit happening here, people getting killed over here. It's like, oh, another accident. Just local news alone, another accident over here. It's like, my God. I mean, that right there is huge. They can relate.
I like
And
that.
when,
And that's
and when
stuff
you
that I send the summary text with all the big numbers, 2x and 3x. Hell yeah.
and when you ask all the questions about, their family, have they dealt with this before? Yeah, something happened to somebody who was only 30 years old, got in an accident. I mean, I hear it all the time. I mean, it's just the stuff you said, Dom, is like, I use it all the time too. That's a big closing tool.
Yes.
Kind of along the same lines of value, like Christina, is a good question. Yes, is the accidental only for the policyholder, or can they add their family members to the policy? So I've never added a family member to somebody's policy. If there's ever a family member, I get them their own policy. Like that brings,
Explain to them why there is. Because remember on the test, all that stuff about
yeah,
because this was confusing as hell for me when I started, you guys, because I used to think that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, they just go on the same policy. Well, there's first to die policies and there's second to die policies. Okay. So explain to them, hey, like, no, I'm not going to do that because it's only going to pay out one time.
yep,
And then you guys got to pick which one's going to die first. Who's going to die first? Then they're going to go, oh, well, that's a load of crap. I'm like, yeah, that's how it works. So you're going to have two different policies so that when you die, you get paid. And then when you die, your kids get paid. Yeah, that's what we want. All right, cool. That's what we're going to do. Because nobody's thinking just pay me and leave my kids screwed. Make sense? So,
yeah. I've always explained a rider, an add-on to a policy like that is just a way for them to charge you more money for something that's never going to happen or not going to bring as much value to your family as them having their own policy. Because the riders are usually either, like you said, a first to die thing, where if like the insured dies, the rider now no longer has insurance, even though they've been paying extra for it, or it's like a term rider where that it eventually expires. You
yeah,
know what I
that's how
mean?
the kids ones are.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay?
exactly. Like once they
So the
reach
kids riders, once
18,
they hit, I want to say, is it 24?
maybe
20?
something like that. I don't know because I've never done it. So like,
Yeah, it's like 24 years old, they get kicked off. Okay. But they can get a Mutual of Omaha Children's whole life policy for less than what the rider cost, and it lasts forever.
yep.
It's huge. All right. Maybe we should, that Children's whole life is huge. You guys look into that. That's a
Children's
great
Whole
app.
Life, and then also if you have your health license, Mutual of Omaha has an accidental plan. So like the most Mutual of Omaha I've written is adding on to like an America Whole Life, getting children's, um, getting kids whole life, or adding on an accidental, right? So you get $30,000 of America Whole Life, and then you get $250,000 of an accidental added on top of that. So adding on accidental is incredible value to get, much larger face amount for a low cost for in case something crazy happens.
With the accidental, are there like certain ages that it caps off at certain companies? Like, is there a general rule of thumb like 70
Yes.
I
or
think it is like
because I mean I've had a couple of
65 or
questions
something.
with that.
So Mutual
It's
of Omaha
70.
is seven.
Okay.
Mutual of Omaha is 70, and America has an accidental too. They cut off at 60.
Okay.
The accidental only. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, accidental
Accidental
only.
only.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, mutual accidental stops at 70.
Yeah. But on their living promise, it stops at 72. And then on their but Eagle never stops. So Eagle's the only whole life policy that has accidental that rides on for the real whole life of the policy, which is insane. Their actuaries must have figured something out because everybody else's actuaries are going, hell no. You know. All right. Yeah, looking the whole life. Both of my kids have it. My kids have Children's Whole Life with Mutual, and they have their National Life IULs. They got both of them. You can get up to 50K with Children's Whole Life. And I think at 17, it's still only like $25, right? $30, something like that.
Yeah.
At the highest, it could be. So if you times that by 12 and times it by 80 years, they still didn't pay 50 grand into it. It's the coolest thing ever. If you got nieces, nephews, give it to them as a gift. You know what I mean? It's huge. And it guarantees their insurability. So if they get diagnosed with cancer at 12, 15, 16, 17, 20, they can still increase their insurance with no evidence of insurability at certain ages. I wish I had this policy when I was a kid. And that's what I tell people. You can use that story. My mentor, man, he had cancer when he was 19. He couldn't get this type of insurance until he was 30 years old. If he would have had one of these when he was 12, 13, cancer would have happened anyways. But he would have been able to increase his insurance without any evidence of insurability. So you're not getting the insurance for your grandbabies if they die. You're getting it for them because you know life is going to happen. And you don't want to put them in a position where they can't take care of their family because somebody didn't take care of them when they were in their adolescence. Now they're like, oh, hell yeah, I'll get that. And whether they get $5,000 a whole life or $50,000 a whole life, they get the same benefits to increase their insurance later on in life. I've had people just get $5,000 on their kids just because they want to guarantee they get insurance later on in life. But this is all just knowledge. Knowledge is power, you guys. You know what I mean? So now y'all got it. So start sharing that with people. And the more policies you have in the house, the more they're going to stick to.
Yep.
I don't talk about cash value in any whole life policy, but that one I actually do with the kids' children life. I'm gonna say that's going to build them cash value by the time they're 20, 30 years old. Something comes up in their life, they have that security. So, and that's another closing point that I use for the grandparents or parents or whatever.
Hell yeah, dude. In like 20, 30 years, if they got $7,000, $10,000 built up of cash value and they were only paying $20 a month, shit, let's rock. You know what I
Books
mean?
for college, down payment on a car. I mean, I bring up all this stuff, and they're just like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah,
No brainer,
why not?
dude. No brainer. So very good. Very good. Now, if we go from Americo, if they don't go through with Americo, Bryce, right? Or some big things, what are some big things that like, hey, they have these? It's not guaranteed issued, right? But I'm for sure going to another carrier. What are a couple of those things, Bryce?
It's usually a combination of things because Americo now is pretty lenient with a lot of the things that we would consider major, but like the people that might have some sort of combination of things, that's a reason they could get kicked out of Americo. So for example, if they've had a stroke within the last 2 years and they also have diabetic neuropathy, right? Or they have COPD and insulin dependent diabetes. Those are some reasons why you might go with another carrier. Aetna tends to be the go-to for COPD after Americo, Aetna Standard. Corebridge, if somebody like Corebridge, SIWL, so the standard issue whole life, can be more lenient with some cancer as long as it hasn't like metastasized. So somebody could either have a somewhat recent cancer or even in some cases a current cancer and still get approved at the SIWL. Um, and then I'm trying to think. It's so crazy how much more stuff
How much
America
more
takes now. So
America
it's like
takes,
tougher
right?
to like think of where to go next. It's
It
like,
is.
you
So,
know?
so what I'll say is, like, when you're running that Americo, like, there should be things in your mind. So, like, even when Bryce says this, like, they got COPD and they got this other thing, right? It's not an automatic, like, oh, I'm going to go over here, right?
Right.
But you got
No.
to be thinking, like, okay, I'm going to run this, but most likely my next move is going to be Aetna. So you already have to have that running in your mind. I would already have Aetna up. Does it make sense? I'd already have it up, logged in, ready to rip because I know this may not work. Okay. Or I got trans ready because I know this may not work. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's the beauty of being able to pivot here.
This is what I do. So look at this. With insurance toolkits, and let's do this. And I notice I don't have anything here in the health, right? Nothing's here in the health. Get quote, America is going to come up. They're the top option. So like that, I'm always going to start there. But let's say this guy has COPD. I use insurance toolkits to find what my next move would be. No, no, no. Because for some reason, um, Americo, once you type anything into the health, Americo doesn't show up. I think it's just like insurance toolkits and Americo's servers don't communicate like that, right? In
Yeah.
terms of like that, I don't like there's some tech reason why. So don't
Yep.
get too confused, but just know that if you type anything into the health, Americo's not going to come up as an option. Doesn't mean don't use them. So I use insurance toolkits as what my pivot would be. I've never written Royal Neighbors, so my next option would be Transamerica.
There you go.
You know what I mean? Or maybe even, Aetna. So like I see this and I go, okay, these are kind of my next lines of defense
Right.
based on
And
this guy having
now,
COPD. If
now
he,
let me answer this though, because like this here, if you see Transamerica and then Aetna, and they both will take it, don't really look at like, man, I'm gonna just go with Transamerica because it's cheaper. Okay. You got to read your client. You
yeah,
got to know the signing process with Transamerica is horrible. Okay. Is horrible. If you have the client who they're savvy, they can check their email, all that type of stuff, and you're going to read this when you're sending them the text message of your ID and stuff. Okay. When you ask them, hey, shoot me over your ID. If that's seamless, cool. Let's go with Transamerica. If you run into hiccups with that, go with Aetna because you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. They're going to get frustrated. You're going to get frustrated. It's not worth $20 or whatever this is. Make sense?
yeah.
So that's another piece in these carriers too. It's like, okay, let me read my client. Are they tech savvy or not? Okay, so that's a big, big piece when you're looking at this because I think a lot of times they go to the next one, Bryce, and it may be something like this.
Dude, and take it from me, I have insurance. I have clients who don't have insurance because I tried to squeeze them in with something where they couldn't figure out the email signature and they got frustrated and hung up. Where if I would have gone Aetna and it's a super easy, just read me a code back text, they would have insurance now. And they don't have insurance toolkit, so they don't know the difference in the price. But I try to project, you know what I mean, and do it.
There you go.
So
And do you know how hard it is, you guys, that when they get frustrated at that point, for you to go, okay, well then let's just go with this carrier.
yeah.
And they're gonna be like, well, what the hell? Why is it 16 bucks more? Nah, I'm good. Dude, you should have just started with that one. They only know what you tell them. I don't know how many times I've got caught in that position of like, damn, why did I say that? You know what I mean? What are you gonna say, G?
Oh, just like a side note on Aetna, just PSA, because I just ran my first app through there, is that you have to run their banking information before you get them approved.
Yes.
So just note on that because it can kind of get, because you're like, oh, hey, I just have to run through the MIB database, but that's not the case with them. They have to run everything. And then at the very end is they'll tell you yes or no.
Correct.
So just for new people, that's caught me off guard. So it's good.
Same with this Transamerica. This is Transamerica's old plan. So Immediate Solution is their older plan. I think Express Solution is their newer plan. So the Immediate Solution, no database check halfway through. You have to finish the application before you get a decision. So them and Aetna.
Oh, so that's not even the new one? Damn.
No, that's the old one. I know.
Why are they still putting that on there?
They still have different things like that they do and don't accept. Their underwritings are different.
So weird. Okay.
Crazy.
Guys, none of this stuff makes sense, by the way. Just so you
No,
know.
it's just part of the broker game. It's either you deal with the different stuff with the carriers and underwriting changing, or you work for one carrier, you know everything about it, and 3% of the clients fit in that box. You know what I mean? So it's like
Dude,
you
you're
deal
so
with what
right.
comes
That's
with
the other
being a
option, right?
broker.
Yeah. So,
Good
right.
stuff. Anybody have any questions? Cool. Hope that helped. We'll get the recording out. But let's make a good rest of the day.
Yeah, I got a quick question.
Yeah.
So when you go to Corebridge and you're going to standard issue and it gets switched to guaranteed issue, does that mean they're not going to get approved anywhere else for like immediate coverage, right?
Not just
Not really.
Really? Okay.
No.
Okay. So that doesn't necessarily, just because it got switched to guaranteed issue.
Yeah, what's crazy about SIWL is that they're lenient with that cancer stuff, but like they're stricter with some stuff that other
Like
carriers are
diabetes.
like no problem with.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like different carriers' risk tolerance, dude, with what they put value in is weird, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, say they got denied also, like you tried America first and they got denied with that. And then that's
okay, so if they got denied with America, denied with SIWL, most likely guaranteed is where they're gonna go.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
That's what happened. All right, that makes sense.
no doubt. All right, everybody else good?
Oh, I have a quick question real quick.
Yeah.
So I have been I bought my first batch of fresh leads this week, and then all the people that I've talked to, I've ran them through Americo, and then they've all got declined. So I only have Americo and Mutual of Omaha right now. So I'm
Mhm.
just wondering, is it better if I just wait until I have Aetna and a few more of my carriers, so that way I can just do like a one close call or whatever, or should I just kind of stick with it until those ones roll in? Because they're all older. Like when I'm looking at my leads, they all look like older people. So I don't know.
What do you say to that, Bryce?
Like there's gonna be it is for like I had a list of people. I only had one carrier for my first 2 weeks, and I had a list of people that had to go with that had current cancer or whatever, had to go with Corebridge. You know what I mean? And I found enough people. Was it frustrating to have people that I couldn't get approved? Yes, but I found enough people that I was able to write a decent chunk of business in my first 2 weeks that did qualify for the one carrier I had.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And so there's enough people in there that can qualify for Americo Mutual of Omaha to be profitable.
And here's another thing too. We all work together, Braley. So if you have you're on live, you have a client that gets kicked back, Bryce could write that client.
Okay. Yeah.
I could write that client. Matthew Gleave could write that client. G could write that client. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
So
Okay.
I think just use the people around you.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, it's all good. Like, just get somebody on and boom, 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 put their agent number in. It's done. It's done. You know, so I think in the meantime, just kind of get creative with some things like that. But like Bryce said, you're going to find enough people that fit into those. And if you got those folks that are guaranteed issued clients, they ain't going nowhere else. And here's another thing I would do. If you didn't have anybody as well or anything like that, I would just write stuff down. I'd find the numbers, right? Get a AIG quoting sheet. I have a sheet that has all the numbers, right? And just sell it and just write it all down on a piece of paper and tell them, hey, well, it's going to take about a week or two for us to get back to you on your approval.
Okay.
And then just now you have all the info. You have it there. when you get the carrier, input the information in, tell them, hey, I'm going to shoot you over. Hey, I got to send you over this thing to sign real quick. I'm just saying, just try to get creative. Don't just leave them.
Okay, no, I haven't done that. Like the ones that I've gotten pretty close with, like I have everything wrote down. Jenny's
Yes.
been helping me a lot with it, but like
There
one of
you
them, I
go.
was like, okay. I didn't tell them they got declined or anything. I was like, all right, well, sometimes it takes a while, so I'll just get back with you. Like, you have my number and make sure they have all that. So I feel like I've left
Perfect.
off on
Perfect. Yeah.
it's
Perfect. Okay, you guys. I don't know who taught you to do that, but that's perfect. Okay?
mostly
That's
Jenny.
perfect. Everybody here, take notes on that. Like,
Yeah.
there's no reason to tell them they got to decline. Hey, it's gonna take a couple weeks to get to figure this out for you. I'll be in touch with you. Da-da. All good. You bought yourself another 2 weeks.
Okay, good.
Hell yeah. They ain't talking to nobody else. You're good.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
a
You
great
know,
point. If you
I,
have Americo, might as well just start the Americo application so you get the main information. If they get declined, don't tell them. Just say, cool. It goes into underwriting. They'll let us know, and we'll go from there. And if it gets approved, if you get the pre-approval, then good. You just keep it rocking.
Okay.
I
So
like
good
that.
stuff. That's good
you know,
stuff. You're doing that. That's
I
a
actually,
great job, Rayleigh. All
I
right.
actually did that. I actually did that before I got AIG. And just one more thing to add to it, get everything, bank account information, the whole bit, because the AIG is a guaranteed approval regardless. So if you just make it seem like you're doing everything, and then we got to finish up a couple things, but everything, bank account, social, the whole bit, 100% of that,
Okay.
Huge.
they'll give it to you.
Perfect.
Hell yeah.
Good work.
Good stuff. I'm happy you brought that up. All right. That's good.
Hey, so
That's good.
if Americo declines a client, do they not notify them via email or anything
do.
like that? Okay.
They do.
Right
They
away?
do. It takes about a week for them to
You'll
get
let
that
her
letter.
know
Okay.
later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's another key point, you guys. If you do get that and you say they get declined America and then they do get approved Aetna or they do get approved any other carrier that you write them, let them know. Okay. I don't say you got declined. I say, hey, America, they came back and they wanted to charge you a little bit more. So I told them no. You're going to get a letter in the mail that says you were declined. I really rejected the coverage on your behalf. Nobody wants to be told that they were declined. Okay. But they also don't want to get a letter in the mail saying they got declined without me letting them know, hey, what that letter is going to be. Okay. So just always let your clients know when you pivot, they're going to get something. Don't worry about it. I sent it, you know what I mean? They explain it to them like that because I've had clients that I didn't say that to. They got the letter in the mail and then they lost their shit thinking, hey man, I thought I got approved. I'm like, oh fuck, that's my bad. Sorry. Yeah, you're with Aetna, not Americo. Oh, okay. And sometimes that don't work. Sometimes that client doesn't call you with that, or they don't pick up the phone. They just call the carrier and cancel it. Make sense?
Yeah.
So great point. Great point, dude. But yeah, let your clients know that. But in Braley, in your situation, you're just buying time. Okay?
Perfect. Okay.
Just buying time. All right. Right on. Great stuff today, you guys. All right. A lot of value here. Let's rock. When value exceeds price, people buy. You got this. All right.
Thank you.
Later, you guys.